Hello, everybody. This is the Coast to Coast Combat Hour. Ed Carbajal here with Matthew Hawkins. As always, we are brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. Make sure you check out All Access MMA for your mixed martial arts news. Before we get moving with the current events and lots of news that we have to get to, um, really quick for our audio listeners, I spoke with a young kickboxer that's fighting out here at the UFC gym in North Brunswick at the end of April by the name of Jay Fountain. So that the audio of that interview will be at the end of this podcast once Matt and I are done catching up on the news. So make sure you stay tuned for that, especially if you're subscribed to the audio version of the podcast. Um, another programming note: I'd like to dedicate this show to Michael De Leon, who is one of the founding fathers of the All Access MMA Project Spurs Network. Passed away a couple of days ago, so we wanted to give our condolences to the Project Spurs Network and our sincerest wishes to all the family over at allaccessmma.com. So it's some sad news. I mean, Matt and I have certainly had enough of news like that, but that doesn't mean it's going to stop coming. But we must press on. So, Matt, man, what a weekend! I mean, what a weekend for early MMA.
Yeah, no, I watched the UFC on Saturday. Uh, thought it was a great card, UFC London.
Mm-hmm.
You had a lot of hype coming in, and it was one of those cards where didn't really have. I mean, it wasn't a pay-per-view name level main event, but it was uh, tailor made for the UK audience
Mm-hmm.
and tailor made for finishes and violence. And I
Yeah.
don't, when it's like when the UFC used to go to Brazil, you used to kind of wonder, where the Brazilians would go like 11-0,
Mm-hmm.
you know, kind of squash match. And not that it's the UFC. Everybody there is legit. We've been through this a million
Yeah.
times. But when you got John McCarthy coming out talking about fighters fighting had fought better competition prior to getting to the UFC than in the UFC, you kind of got to wonder, you know, what kind of how they're carrying these fighters along. I think it's smart though to build guys. Basically, Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett's the guy. He seems to be the guy leading the charge right now for UK MMA. Uh, I I don't dislike him. I don't get the same McGregor vibe from him. I know he's young in his career, and McGregor obviously evolved into what he has become as of this afternoon. But I he backs up what he says so far in the UFC. He gets hit. I like that guy. I like guys that get hit, fight through it, uh, prove some toughness. He's not going to go undefeated. I don't think he's ever going to be a world champion, but I think right now for where the MMA is, especially coming out of the pandemic era of MMA,
Mm-hmm.
especially for the fans in UK, I think it's really cool to have some guys, that they can attached to right now and maybe kind of help bring the sport back to, you know, just rejuvenated again in the UK market. So
Yeah.
I know it was an ESPN card and you didn't catch it, but I'm sure you caught a ton of the
Well, it's too early for me
aftermath.
to really, in all honesty, my time zone and when it aired. So I just caught the highlights and everything else after the fact. I watched the post fight press conference. I mean, there's something to be said. Never mind just the finishes and the fights and the energy and all that, but there's something to be said when about an event being so good that Dana White was openly talking about changing the UFC's schedule so they can get back there again this year after not planning to be there, prior to, I mean, I think it was supposed to be the Usman Edwards card that he wanted to go there for. And, obviously with Usman's hand injury and a bunch of other stuff. But when the energy like that, when you get such a positive turnout, not just from fans there, but I mean, obviously on social media, it's funny. AEW had a pay-per-view recently and they interviewed CM Punk where he talked about WWE fans versus professional wrestling fans, and I feel like we're seeing the same thing in the sport of mixed martial arts. You have mixed martial arts fans like you and me, and then you have UFC fans, and we're seeing the UFC fans really turn out because of the marketing machine that they've become. So the like for me the my Paddy Pimblett phase was, when he was fighting for the Cage Warriors title and getting, you
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
so like to me, it's nothing new, but like, so I'm seeing all these people. I mean, there's people talking about him. I had an exchange with someone on social media the other day. I won't say who. I mean, you'll find it if you could look for it, but I mean that they were literally comparing Pimblett and O'Malley in the same conversation, and saying that O'Malley was actually the better and senior man just because he was in the UFC first. So when I pointed out that Pimblett's been fighting longer than O'Malley has been fighting, they were still on the hype train of the what the UFC marketing machine has developed. So that stuff's a little annoying, but I mean, we still can't take away from fighters with energy like that. Those that's what makes mixed martial arts fun. You mentioned McGregor's rise and stuff like that. Like that for me, that is the energy that I miss. Like that type of fun is it. So I think the UK product is, especially guys like Pimblett and Molly and all those fighters that did well. That it's good for MMA overall. But it is a little annoying when you get these TikToker level folks.
Yeah, I mean, that's just never going to go away. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's something as the sport grows, it's always going to happen. Yeah, I mean, I watched Pimblett in Cage Warriors 2 when he was in the little arena and they start
Hmm.
chanting about the chants that they do, and it was
Yeah.
kind of funny back then, and you realize, okay, this guy's legit,
Yeah.
and he, like I said, he's got his wins, he's gonna lose. Um, my whole thing with the whole thing is like, so we watched this guy in Cage Warriors, and like the reason I kind of would root for him is because he seems to have a decent story.
Yeah.
He says a lot of the right things. I mean, as far as taking care of his neighborhood and stuff, it's all the
Yeah.
stuff that kind of McGregor talked about, but didn't. I mean, maybe he does it behind the scenes, but we don't know publicly that he
No.
does kind of the stuff he talks about. And then you hear the dude made 12,000 and 12,000, and I'm going, well, okay, like why am I? I mean, go back to Cage Warriors, dude. Like San Diego Cage Warriors probably would have paid you more than 12,000, 12,000.
Yeah.
Honestly, for $25,000, I'll pay him to come fight in my backyard. I'll sell tickets for $10,000 a pop, and I'll make a couple $100,000 by putting 25 people in my backyard. Like
Yeah.
that's how famous he is. You got people flying across the world to watch the dude fight, selling out an arena, and on paper he made 24,000 bucks.
Yeah.
I get he got the bonus and all that, but that is I hope that that's all BS, but I mean, he kind of came out and
Hey,
maybe he's
we
trolling.
never know. We never know, especially these days. You've been saying it since they made the ESPN Plus move. Like the numbers we get for anything there, we don't have anything to check it anymore like we used to. So
Yeah, I know, but they're
um,
handing out money left and right. Like, does the dude not realize that? I mean, I get going to the UFC it's. I mean, fame, uh, fortune and glory would be wrong because obviously he's not getting. I mean, he probably walked away with like $5,000
mhm,
after taxes and paying everybody. Um, so it's just I don't even understand because part of me would go, dude, he realizes he's going to be the reason they sell the arena out. Like I
mhm.
could go sign with DAZN. They'll probably give me $40 million for 5
I don't
fights.
know about that. They're
But
not doing too good these days.
well, you know what Triller, yeah, all these, they're all in
Yeah.
trouble. Everybody,
Yeah.
nobody seems to have money. The one company that seems to have money pays 12 and 12 for somebody that should probably be making 10 million and 10 million
Yeah.
based off of how much money that
I know
uh
somebody reported that he did like 60 and 60 or something like that, and
and he was
even
like, I wish.
Pimblett was the one that commented. He was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Where are you getting that from, bro?" I wish I made that. Yeah,
I
but
mean,
I mean, listen, that was Saturday. I mean, we're completely overlooking the one lights out that happened Friday morning, which was able to catch the latter part of the card because I mean, I was working, but it was on free on YouTube, which I love. The entire event was on YouTube, so I watched that, and that was another one an event that lived up to the name. One championship that likes to name their events old school style. This one was called Lights Out, and damn it, if a lot of people didn't get their lights put out. I mean, I think I forget how many fights was it, 11. Like all of them were finished. All but one of them were finishes, and like most of them were knockouts. The most notable, obviously, was the main event, the title fight between Tan Le and Gary Tonin. Um, listen, but I think Tonin was favored to win because of his submission game and how dangerous it is, and Tanlay kind of proved what Vinny Magalhaes wanted to prove in submission grappling, which is I mean, not that leg locks don't work, because they absolutely do work, but I mean, you better when you commit to being on your back and having a striker on top of you, it's probably not a safe place to be. And Mr. Tonin unfortunately found that out by getting knocked out in the first round when he was going for a leg lock. I have to say there was a point where it looked like it was in, and there was a really, if you rewatch it, because I rewatched it quite a few times, being from New Jersey with Tonin being a Jersey guy, you know, there was some emotional investment as a sports fan. Um, there was a moment where you could see Lay was thinking about engaging in that leg lock battle, and he kind of just said, "Let me semi reap my knee just so I can continue to fire away." And even Tonin was having fun with it on social media about how just he just swung away to the point that he got the knockout. But as we know, mixed martial arts is anything can happen no matter what your mastery of discipline is. I mean, it is the mixing of the martial arts after all, and everyone's got a puncher's chance.
Yeah, and Tonin made a mistake that a lot of grapplers learn from eventually. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that like his MMA career is over if he wants to keep fighting.
Oh no,
Uh,
absolutely,
I
yeah,
think, yeah, I mean, and I know you weren't even insinuating that. I think that like he could very well rematch that and win that fight. I mean, it just by not being so lackadaisical when it comes to, you're undefeated. Probably didn't think you could be knocked out on the ground like that. Probably thought there's nobody that's going to, be able to get out. I just think that that's probably what goes through their heads until, you know, you wake up,
yeah,
from that. But
but
that was
yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, but I think that I want to continue to see Tonin fight because I think that
yeah.
he there's an upside to him being the master of the uh, art of jiu-jitsu that always makes things intriguing. You when you have a master of a certain aspect of MMA, it's always interesting to see how they're able to develop the rest of their games and how they do learn from their losses
Mm-hmm.
and adapt because he's going to have to adapt because
Yeah,
he
because
clearly.
yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
mean, it's not like he's been doing it's he's still relatively new to the sport, and he
Mhm.
climbed really fast because of how good he is at the art that he's mastered. So like you said, he's just got to make the adjustments. I mean, I think the reason why I like it so much is just because it's so. I mean, it's probably why you like it so much too. It's just so it just takes us back to the old, back in the day when it was like
Style versus style.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's yeah, it's all the same kind of thing. You
yeah.
you just wonder, and guys don't always get knocked out. Usually you'll see a guy kind of get beat up, but we've seen it dozens and dozens of times throughout the history of the sport where guys keep going for that ankle lock and uh, they
Uh,
brush the
oh,
first couple off, and then all of a sudden it's, oh, oops,
I
caught
think
the
it
temple.
was. I mean, it was every time that happens, it reminds me, and I could be wrong. I mean, you'd know better than I would, but Jim Miller versus I think it was Jim Miller versus Donald Cerrone when he lost to Donald Cerrone. I was out here in New Jersey, in Atlantic City. I think that was the fight where Miller was going. He was so married to going for a heel hook that he gave up his back, and he wound up getting pounded out. It was after taking a really hard shot to the gut too. I could be mixing it up with another fight, but I do remember Miller going for an ankle. It might not be Cerrone. Might be someone else that he lost to, but I remember that. I mean, that this was pre Danaher Death Squad and Gary Tillman
Hmm.
and all that stuff. But I remember watching it and being like, "Oh my God, he's going for it!" But he went for it so bad that he completely negated everything else that could happen, and somehow, whomever it was, took his back, but like just managed to do hammer shots to both sides of his head and get a KO win. So it's just like you said. I mean, it's old school but new school, and I love it. I love it. I mean, I think I'm really liking One Championships, and I'm looking forward to the One X card with the mixed rules bout that they have for the main event with Bratang and Mighty Mouse, Demetrius Johnson. I mean, that's confusing. I don't even want to get into the the rules and the rounds and what rules are being applied per round, but that's what they're doing. It's good, like MMA, kickboxing, whatever. That I mean,
It's one round. I think I think the first round's boxing, the second round or kickboxing,
kickboxing, yeah,
second round's MMA. It reminds me of what was it, Nagashima and Aoki from Dream. I think it was Dream. I don't think it was K1. I'm pretty sure it was Dream years ago. And uh, Nagashima was the guy who came out, dressed like a anime girl, or I don't even know.
it's
It's
funny
just
you're
a
saying that
weird scenario. But he ended
Sexy
up.
Yama and Aoki is on this card too. So
No, I mean that's
yeah,
old school.
yeah,
Um, I I mean, I think it's a cool card. It's long. It's
yeah.
20 fights. It is on Sunday. Well, I don't know exactly how it works. I think it's Friday night it
Or
starts, and
Saturday
then
morning or
it
here or
runs all the,
some
which
shit
is
like
I
that.
obviously better for me, but that's gonna be a 9-10 hour all night pull to catch
Yeah.
that card. First two halves of it are free on YouTube, and then the last section is on pay per view. I'm not sure what they're charging, but I mean, if you're gonna charge for a card, I would say that
Yeah.
you know main card. You got Stamp Fairtex, Angela Lee for the women's strawweight championship. Great fight there. Then Demetrius Johnson versus Rod Tang. Adriano Moraes, the guy who knocked out Mighty Mouse in his last bout, finishes off that going for defending. It's not the tournament any longer because
Hmm.
that ended, but he's defending the title that he won from Demetrius Johnson. And then you got, like you said, Aki Sexyama and Aoki. Uh, and then John Wayne Parr. I mean, it's not going to be boring.
No.
It's not going to
Well,
be
that
boring.
last one wasn't boring either. That's why I'm like, whatever they're doing, I don't know if it's they're giving them new water or or something, or like maybe they're giving them all Gatorade or some Mountain Dew or some shit like that. But yeah, it's been great. And Danielle, there's a submission grappling. Danielle Kelly makes her debut on I think like she's like the first. They have a
Uh huh.
super grappling event or whatever they're calling it on the card. I mean, I kind of like a smorgasbord. You know, one of the things I think me and you were both on the same page. Like Scott Coker when he did the Bellator Dynamite, kickboxing and MMA. Like we love shit like that.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it works over and over again, but I think once a year,
Hmm.
um, or once a special occasion, I think it's kind of a cool thing. I mean, De Ritter versus Andre Galvo is grappling match is pretty freaking cool. I
Yeah,
saw Galvo uh, go against was it, I think Chael Sonnen in
Metamoris.
Metamoris. Yeah,
Yeah,
um, dude's a beast, and like you said, DeRitter's one of the guys you named at the end of the year to look forward to. I know that this is just a grappling match, but if DeRitter's able to submit Galvo, it's definitely a way to get your name back up there again.
yeah,
It's another notch on that belt that not many humans on this planet would be able to say that they did.
yeah. So I mean that's a lot of fun stuff coming out of there. I mean, as far as I mean, that's all the we talked about a lot of good news. Now we got to talk about some, I guess, semi bad news. Unfortunate news coming out of Bellator, like literally in the last 48 hours. You know, we live on planet Earth, so things happening on this planet are eventually going to affect the things that we watch. And I mean, I don't know what I mean. First, the good news, I guess, is that Benson Henderson re-signed with Bellator, and him and Peter Quilley are going to fight when they return to Dublin. So that's some good news. The bad news is the bantamweight Grand Prix that we were so much looking forward to has lost a couple of its competitors. With Sergio Pettis is out of the Grand Prix and James Gallagher. We learned this all like in the last 72 hours or something like that, right?
Yeah, so Gallagher's out, Pettis is out. That leaves Archuleta versus uh, Rufian Stotts now for an interim title. In order for them to keep a title belt in the tournament format, um, was that a bout that was already scheduled? Do you know? I can't remember the original brackets or the original fights, or is that who was Pettis originally supposed to fight? Was he supposed to fight Stotts?
He was going to fight Stotts, yeah.
Okay, so Archuleta moved in. Was Archuleta in the tournament from the start? He was, right?
I believe so. Yeah, it was
Yeah, I'm
only.
just trying. So we're still waiting on. In theory, we still have two alternates that will have to be inserted, right?
Yeah, and I know there's a bunch of. I mean, we've talked about the the one that division in Bellator before. There's a bunch of it's a Shark Tank there, so there's a lot of guys that are trying to throw their name in the in that hat for that tournament. But yeah, the I don't know, man. I mean, I have to say, just because I'm a little bit I get all conspiracy theory when it comes to matchmaking and fights because we know Stotts and Pettis are teammates. I'm wondering if this is all being done to avoid them from fighting each other. You know what I mean? Like to find a way to make something happen. I don't know. I I just
I don't know. I mean,
yeah
if surgery wasn't involved and stuff like that, then
yeah.
maybe not. But it's a good fight. Archuleta Stotts is a hell of a fucking
I mean,
fight.
Stotts Pettis is a good fight too. Yeah, no, they're
Yeah, no,
all
I mean they're all good fights. The
yeah.
whole tournament was stacked going in. That's why I'm kind of curious to see who the alternates that they plug in are, or not even alternates at this point, just who they plug in to the opening round. And we mentioned before we talked, I guess Caposa was the one talking about why they do an interim title. I kind of tend to agree with that. Why not just make it the number
Hmm.
one contender fight?
Yeah.
Do five round bouts if you want. Which is this is what they should do. The 5 rounds seems to be working well in their Grand Prix. But we open ourselves up for some weird scenarios if we start getting interim champions dropping out in this tournament, and where that will leave stuff and who gets stripped, and that who's the number one contender at the end of that when who if three guys have interim belts, I mean, so that opens up the door for some chaos, which I guess is kind of on par for the sport we love. But I mean, uh, I like what I see out of the tournament. I think that's going to be great. Their Hawaiian cards are shaping up nicely.
Hmm.
Nice to see them going back to Hawaii, especially with the military one. Hopefully, for the God bless everybody, they figured out how to get some of their timing down on those shows.
Yeah.
Uh, because the last couple years, their salute to the military shows have been uh, war of attrition, I would say,
Yeah.
uh, to get through some of those. In the, last year was cursed though, because you sat through about an hour break and then Karatanov got punted uh, in the grind about 10 seconds into a fight. So, um, but the other thing you were insinuating about the world is
Yeah.
Amosov.
So Yaroslav Amosov from the press release from Bellator. He's actively helping defend his home in the Ukraine with everything going on between Russia and the Ukraine. So the welterweight champion is he's obviously stepping away from the sport to fight in a true war. So an interim welterweight title fight is announced for May 13th now between MVP and Logan Storley, which I don't know how to feel about that one because I they're both fun to watch. I mean, I like watching Storley. I know folks that aren't fans of wrestling don't like watching Storley, but if after his last fight, I feel like he probably gained it for a few fans because that was some serious heart from that man. I don't know, but what do you what are your thoughts on an interim fight? I mean, obviously the reason is fine, but like as far as the matchup, what do you think?
Well, obviously MVP was going to be in it no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Storley is the natural, I guess. Without just looking at the rankings, I know he's right there. I would
Yeah,
assume
he's
that.
number 4 and MVP's
Okay,
number 1. So
so there's a couple guys maybe ahead of him, but without looking again, it would. But I mean, I think Storley's going to win this fight easily. I mean, I know that maybe that's underestimating
mm,
MVP, but I think it's about the worst stylistic matchup possible for MVP.
mm.
I don't. I, I. I mean, if I'm laying odds, I'm putting it like negative minus 400 on Storley. I think that. I mean, I just. I don't. I don't. I shouldn't say I don't see a way MVP wins because we've all seen flying knees crush people's skulls, and we've seen people eat knees on shooting in for shots and stuff. But
Yeah.
I don't see any. I just see Storley taking him down. I mean, assuming each guy fights to what greatest capability is, I don't see how MVP stops Storley from taking him down. And maybe it's not the most spectacular thing. Maybe there is some lay and pray involved, but I don't see how Storley loses this fight if he just doesn't get deer in headlights in the middle of the cage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I never like to put one. Every time I think MVP is going to lose badly, he with the exception of the Lima fight. You know what I mean? Like he's definitely surprised me in the past. So I don't like to put anything past him. But as watching ever since Storley came into Bellator, I mean he's been pretty for me fun to watch. And again, like I mean I think he's a bad matchup for anybody. And if you have any doubts about it, just watch his last fight. I forgot what he called him. He said he has the Midwestern heart. I forget what he said in the post fight press or after he got interviewed. I mean the guy literally walked through everything thrown at him to pull off a W, and that's something that I feel like is more than wrestling is in his favor against somebody that's um I don't want to say a one trick pony because MVP is not a one trick pony. He's just got a lot of he's very creative with his striking. So that's like that's the thing that could change things if he lands because we've seen him like you said. You mentioned the skull. He fought. I forget the wrestler he fought not so long ago. I don't remember the event, but that guy was another one that someone with a strong wrestling background, and he caved in his nose when he caught it with the.
Yeah, that was Derek Anderson, but there was no shot from Derek Anderson. He never. That's I
Mm,
like Derek Anderson, and he's
yeah.
been interviewed for the show. But I think his game plan in that was surprising to me. I'm not
Mm,
gonna say it was the wrong game plan because I'm not a fighter, but it was surprising to me.
mm-hmm,
Is probably the best way to say it. Yeah, looking at the rankings right now, so the only two people ahead of Storley are Lima and Jackson, and they're the co-main event that night.
mm-hmm.
So it's almost like it's almost created a little four-man Grand Prix. Uh, Possibly kind of a number one contender Grand Prix until Amasov hopefully returns safely and is able to
Yeah.
do everything he needs to do. Yeah, I mean, I think Storley's in a good
Yeah.
situation here. I mean, getting back to MVP, he he got taken down by Lima, who is taking other people down. He got taken down by Paul Daly. I mean, I just part of me wants MVP to win because obviously it creates. He's exciting when he's
Mm-hmm.
on. He's fun to watch, but I just don't see a world where. I mean, I think it's the same situation with Amazon. I think Amazon would have done basically the same thing that I kind of expect Starley to do. So I think it might just be. I want to see Venom Page in the UFC fight Wonderboy Thompson. That's all I want to see before
That'd be
Wonderboy
a really good
retires.
fight too.
That's the one fight I want to see. So if MVP needs to lose this fight to maybe somehow sign with the UFC and make that miracle happen or something like that, I just
So,
that's the fight kind of it's kind of one of those dream crossover fights that may turn out to be the most dud fight of all time. But when you're talking kind of the karate based uh, fighters, I would say that those guys are
yeah.
probably, other than some of these dudes, maybe out of, on some of these other crazy cards in the,
Yeah.
Far East and stuff.
Yeah.
I would say that those are the two most well known
You know
karate
what's
based guys.
you know what's funny? I didn't know how bad I wanted to see that fight until you just said it right now.
There's potential. I mean, it might
Yeah,
turn into a point
yeah.
karate fight, which could be, potentially boring. But even if that was the case, at least just let's just settle it. It's
Yeah. Now somebody would get dropped with something. Definitely between them two. Yeah, I
I think
hundred
it's that.
percent. But yeah, well, maybe you get Wonder Boy back on this podcast. God damn it, and instead of just the one time. I mean, we had Doc Lucas on last week. Like what's going on over here? Let's
Continue
let's
the
get it.
rotation.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was fun when we had him on, and we didn't have all this production value last time, so it'd be way better if we got him back. Wonder Boy, if you watch this, come on, holler at me. If Matt's not hollering at you, holler at me. I'll make it happen.
Uh, well, I think that pretty much wraps us up. You got the audio for our audio listeners with Jay Fountain, who you interviewed.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
And I think you said it best about the De Leon family, who we wish Wes best wishes to. So anybody can check us out at their website, allaccessmma.com, for our video podcast. You can follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMAHawk21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow the show at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast to Coast Combat Hour on Instagram, and check out Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, and Old Head Carb on Twitch. Ed, look forward to listening to your interview as well. Have a good rest of the night, man, and
Oh yeah, real quick. Next week there no new show next week. I'm going to Vegas, helping some of one of my training partners is competing in the ADCC trials on the West Coast, so I'll be near you, Matt. I'm not sure how free I'll be, but because we're there
yeah,
for competition, but I'll be there for that. So I have to leave. I have to get ready to leave for that the day that we usually record. So, but I'll probably schedule some old episode or something for folks to listen to. But if you have a Flow Sports account, it's on the Flow Network, and you might see me yelling off the side of some mat on one of
you
those
got some
competitions.
coaching to do.
Yeah.
You need to get your first champion in your stable. All right, man. Best of luck. Obviously, I'll keep in touch with you. Best of luck in your travels and in your coaching, and hopefully all
So
that works out, man. Plus, you get away and get out to Vegas, so uh, life's
yeah,
not all bad.
yeah, no, not at all. Peace. I'll
Have a good
see
night.
you.